There we go, recording, and I'm going to flick it over. So I'm going to turn to this nice little person in the bottom left-hand corner of your screens there. All right, so you should all see the PowerPoint presentation, creating more me time. And we've got a list of people on the right-hand side. I've got my little chat window. So what we're going to do here, team, is go through a few key points and strategies around creating more me time. But before we get started, I just want to explain a little bit about why I wanted to host this little webinar. So recently, in probably the last 2 years, we transitioned into health and fitness, and part of that is this: we want to do things that we're passionate about, in particular helping people to do better at life, and in many ways helping people to get healthier through good nutrition and through fitness programs. And really our goal is to help people to give more and get more out of life. And obviously having a healthy, fit body is going to take you a long, long way toward getting more and giving more out of life. So in particular, why are we hosting this specifically aimed at mums? Well, as you all know, you're all mums, and Shane, you're a grandmother. If you're a mum, you're expected to do quite a lot. And in many times, you're working through an endless and very much an impossible list of to-dos that includes driving kids here, there, and everywhere, wiping snotty noses, meeting your deadlines, meeting other people's deadlines, maybe working as well for a wage, making sure people are fed, safe, and healthy and happy. But the key thing is it's an endless list. It's never going to stop. And it's oftentimes an impossible list. And sadly, as mums, you're often putting yourself last at your own expense, at the expense of your own health, at the expense of your own needs. And there's a vicious cycle that happens that you've potentially experienced already, that if you're neglecting your health, it's going to impact on other aspects of your life, including family environment as well. So that's the key reason as to why we're holding this particular webinar. And it did come out of a recent post I put on there about asking mums in particular what are their biggest struggles when it comes to nutrition. And time was a very common theme that people talked about. And although I work in fitness and nutrition, I'm not going to do a pitch or anything at the end. This is purely just out of wanting to help people. So I'm going to start off with a key question. I'd love for you to throw out the chat window. The key question is, if you had $604,800 to spend in only 1 week, what would back up again. What would that look like if you had $604,800 to spend in only 1 week? So if you want to post your little comments and thoughts, and then I'll explain where that number comes from. So if you've got a little chat window up, you can type in what you've got there. All right, Jess is saying, pay the mortgage, book a holiday, bless others. Nice work, Jess. I like it. I'd go the same. Any other thoughts? Emma's saying same as Jess. Sabrina, Shane. Shane's saying, go on a yoga meditation retreat and pay off all my kids' mortgages. Well, maybe. I like it, Shane. All right. So where does the number 604,800 come from? Any guesses? I'll unmute you all and see if you want to jump in. Anyone got any thoughts?
Is that minutes in a week?
How many minutes? Very close. It's how many seconds?
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, so we've got 604,800 seconds in a week. I'm just going to throw you back on.
Wow.
That's quite a lot of time when you think about it. And so a key part of today is all about time. So let's break it down a little bit, get a good foundation as to what we're looking at before we get into the deeper stuff. So time is what we call a resource. A resource is anything that can help you get the stuff done that you need to get done. And we call time a resource. So we've got one dropping in, Kirsten March. I'll just let her in. Hello, Kirsten. How are you?
Hello, good.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
We're just talking about time. So I've got a recording of this as well that I'll flick you the link through after the session.
Yeah.
All right, so time is a valuable resource. It's the most valuable of all resources because if we lose time, we can't get it back. And so we want to see time as something that can actually serve us as opposed to us being a slave to time. So if you aren't taking any notes or anything, this would be a good one to take. So we really want to flip the switch a little bit in that we're often a slave to time. We're always running around, feeling stressed, looking at the clock. But with any resource, like whether we talk about money and time is money, we'll look at that in a moment. But we want to see it a little bit differently in that we want time to serve us. And if we're in control of our time and we're making better choices when it comes to things like priorities, then time can certainly be of that valuable resource in serving us. So time is a valuable resource and we certainly don't want to waste it. We've got 604,800 seconds in every week and we want to make the most out of that time. Now, what's time management? Okay, so if we take the term time management literally, it doesn't really make sense. We can't pause time. Unfortunately, we can't jump in our DeLorean parked in the garage and go back in time, and we can't go forwards in time and find out who's winning the grand final on the weekend and put loads of money on it. But time management is about using those seconds for the week and any other resources effectively so we can get the most important stuff done. So that's really what we're headed towards today, is around understanding how we can use our time and resources better so we can get the really, really important stuff done. And we're going to break down what that important stuff might look like for you. So get your chat windows out. Who is a successful person that you know? Who is a successful person? It might be someone on the TV, it might be a politician, it might be a friend, a parent, or somebody. Who would be your most successful person that you would look up to? My friend Kathy says Kirsten March. Nice one. Jacinta Aburn says Shane. Any other thoughts? Jess Morris says, I have no idea. That's all right. And Sabrina says, my best friend, my apologies if I pronounce it incorrectly, Khushbu, who lives in Bangladesh. That was probably terrible, right? All right, so here's a couple of case studies. We've got 3 case studies to throw up here. We got, everyone should know this lady here, the one, the only Oprah Winfrey, media personality, successful talk show host, philanthropist. She's an author. She's probably done a lot more stuff that we just don't even know about. Multi-millionaire. Then we've got Beyonce, the Queen Bee, best singer in the world. She's also a mother of 3. And then one of my favorites over here, Tia Claire Toomey. She's the 3-time fittest person on earth, about to become the 4th with the CrossFit Games coming up this weekend. Now, they're my top 3. Here's a key question. What do these successful people have in common with you and I? I'm going to unmute you all. I'm going to see who can jump in with the right answer. What do these successful people have in common with you and I? Any thoughts?
Parents?
They're parents? Yes, they are, but that's not the answer I'm looking for.
Is Oprah a parent?
But that's a good question. I'd have to look that one up.
They've all got time, I guess.
They have the same time that we have.
Oh, right. Who said that? Was that Emma?
Yeah, I was going to say they certainly don't have the same drive as me.
All right, time. Well done, Emma. So the answer is absolutely certain. No matter where they've come from or their challenges or their upbringing, they all have 24 hours.
The same time.
Or 604,000 seconds, 604,800 seconds in a day. It's what they do with it that makes all the difference between a successful person and an unsuccessful person. And you might define success differently. Some people define it by how much money in their bank. Others is happiness, family, stability, safety, security, things like that. Regardless, a successful person is someone who uses their time as that most valuable resource, and they make sure that time serves them and they're not a slave to time. So time versus money, we might have heard this saying once or twice before. There's a lot of truths in that time is money. You can make some good investments with time and with money. So a good investment with your time could be spending time with your partner or with your children. A bad investment with your time could be spending loads of time doing gaming or watching reruns of Seinfeld or whatever else is that we want to do. And like with money, we can make good investments with money. We can buy property, pretty safe investment. We can buy a good quality piece of clothing that's going to last us for a while, but we can also make bad investments with money, like blowing 20 bucks at McDonald's or something like that we know is going to make us feel awful and unsatisfied later. But here's the key difference, time versus money. The key thing is that if we lose money, we can just work a little bit more, we can earn it back, depending on how much you've lost, of course. But with time, if we lose time, we can't regain it. So again, we want to emphasize that every second, every minute of the day is valuable, and what you do with it absolutely counts for a lot. So let's kick forward. Key question, why is time management so important to you all as mums? Can you all give me one or two benefits over here of effective time management, being great at managing your time? What's the payoff for you as mums? Open up your chat windows. I'd love to hear a couple of thoughts on the benefits. Is that Nikki Bryan that you've named there, Emma? Lovely. All right. So Sabrina says, have some more time for yourself. Great answer, Sabrina. More me time. That's what we all want. Emma's saying the same, more free time with family and self. Lovely. Jess Morris saying more relaxed when organised. Sorry, more relaxed when organised. I was just flicking around a little bit. Hang on. Time to enjoy family. Time for myself. More free time. House runs smoothly and calmly. Thanks, Kirsten. Shane says more self-satisfaction on achievements and sense of planning for yourself. Fantastic. Whole stack of really good benefits. Now let's flip the switch a little bit. And these are probably some of the consequences that you've experienced over the years in not managing your time so well. What are some of the consequences that you've experienced as mums of not managing your time so well? I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you can type away. Stress, says Emma. Big one. Stress, says Shane. Forgetting things, says Emma. Poor health, thanks Jess. Stress, mental health challenges. Nothing happens properly, feeling out of control, feeling like we're spinning our wheels, yeah. Stress is a common one, feeling anxious. Yeah, thanks everyone, that's excellent. Here's a couple that I've thrown up that really similar things around stress and and so forth. So the benefits, you get your priorities done. And we'll talk about priorities a lot in a moment. You'll have more time for you. You've also that more me time, feeling like you're in more control as opposed to stress. More time to address the spot fires because we can't control what happens outside of ourselves. Kids are always going to have accidents and we're always going to have emergencies that we've got to attend to. But if we're managing our time really well, we're going to have more time to address those things without forgetting our priorities. And I really want to highlight that if we are in control of our time, then it's going to help with relationships as opposed to, I think, who was that? Jess highlighted that as well, coming back to relationships. Consequences, more stress, mental health, physical, emotional impacts, relationship impacts. You're going to achieve far less. Shane, you highlighted that with benefit. And consequences, feel like you have less time. Again, we've all got the same amount of time in the day, but there's many days when I've certainly said, and Dana certainly said to me, like, feels like the day's gone so fast and I've got nothing done. Quite a common complaint. All right, so key question, what does prioritizing mean? An essential, absolutely critical part of time management is about understanding what your priorities are. So by definition, a priority is something that is more important than the other things that you need to do. Okay, so it involves thinking about every task that you've got to do, no matter how big, no matter how small, and working out how important that task is. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Our priorities are our non-negotiables. And if we don't get our priorities done, there's going to be some negative impacts, whether it's to our health, to the family unit, or some other aspects that we just can't miss. Okay, so priorities are the things that are most important according to your values as well. So we'll talk about values in a moment. And they're things that's going to build your health and wellness. And priorities are going to help you move toward your goals. So whatever your goals might be, whether it's improving relationships, whether it's losing weight, whether it's improving your overall state of health, your priorities are the things that are going to tick these three boxes. And so this is a really important part because there's going to be some themes that are coming across. The common theme here is you. Okay, priorities are all about you, not about anyone else. Your priorities are all about you. And as mums, one thing that I love about mums is that they're very selfless, but there's going to come a time when mums put you first. You're putting yourself first, and that's absolutely critical to your ongoing health. So I'm going to highlight priorities with a little story, and some of you might have come across this before or something a little bit similar. It's called Is the Jar Full? I've got some little illustrations to help explain priorities. Okay, so this is Professor Tom. Professor Tom stands up in front of a class and he's giving a lecture. He's got this big glass jar in his hand, and currently the glass jar is empty. Okay. Professor Tom starts to put a whole heap of rocks into the jar until the jar is completely full. He turns to the class and says, "Hey guys, what do you think? Is the jar full?" The class looks at the jar and thinks, "Yeah, absolutely, Professor Tom, the jar is full. You can't put anything else into that jar." Professor Tom then takes some little pebbles and starts filling that jar with pebbles. So we've got rocks and we've got pebbles. And as you can see the picture on the right-hand side there, the jar looks pretty full, and Professor Tom turns to his class again and says, "So guys, what do you think? Is the jar full now?" The class says, "Yeah, absolutely, it's full. We can't put any more pebbles in there, can't fit any more rocks in there." So then Professor Tom proceeds to take out a bag of sand and he starts to fill that jar with sand, and all the sand just sinks into all the little air pockets in the jar. And as you can see on the right-hand side, we've got a jar filled with rocks, pebbles and sand. And Professor Tom asks the same question, "What do you think, class? Is the jar full?" The class says, "Yep, absolutely." And Professor Tom says, "Yep, you're absolutely spot on. We can't fit anything else into that jar." So this jar represents your life. The rocks are your priorities. The pebbles are the secondary tasks that come after your priorities. And then the sand is all the other stuff that fits in around your rocks and your pebbles. So we're going to get into defining what those rocks, those pebbles and the sand specifically are in a moment. But before we do that, let's flip it a little bit now. So let's see if we were to take an empty jar, and then we're going to start with the sand, and we're going to fill up the same amount of sand into that jar, and then the same amount of pebbles into the jar, and then add the same amount of rocks. So we're going to get the order upside down. What's going to happen is those rocks are going to spill out over the edge. You're not going to be able to fit all of those rocks into that jar. Okay, so this story is really about making sure that we, first of all, understand our priorities, and number two, we actually get them in the right order. Okay, so we're going to break this down now in terms of what are your rocks, what are your pebbles, and what are your sands. So in terms of rocks, things that you want to have as your rocks are things that go into that glass jar first. Sleeping, getting 6 to 8 hours quality sleep. And I know that's really hard, Sabrina. Jess, you're laughing at me right now. I've been there. We've got 3 kids and my third did not sleep for 22 months. So there's absolutely challenges outside of your control for that. Eating, hydration, so drinking water throughout the day, helps with digestion, alleviates headaches, helps with general immune system health, as well as a number of other things, concentration. Exercise, for some people it might be your spiritual life, and intimate relationships. Now, our pebbles, which would be the things that we do next, once we've prioritized those rocks. Pebbles could be study, learning, could be housework, less important relationships, so that could be friends or extended family. People we don't really want to see. Work, community involvement could be your pebbles. And then the sand is all the other stuff. Could be reading, TV, browsing on the internet, scrolling on social media. Now, there's a bit of a theme here, and I alluded to it before. What's the common theme when we're talking about these rocks? Does anyone want to jump in and type a little answer down there? What's the common theme with regards to those rocks? What are we really trying to hit the nail on the head with there? Any thoughts? Emma, you've got a couple right so far. Let's see if we can get this one. You know what? I'll unmute you. What do you reckon, Emma? What's the common theme?
Oh, that's a bit of pressure. That's all looking after yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, you. Absolutely. YOU. It's all about you. The rocks are all about the things that's going to help you move toward your goals, whether it's a healthier, fitter person, losing weight, giving more, getting more out of life. If you don't put yourself first in terms of you are the rocks, and these things like sleeping, eating, exercise, spiritual life, the relationships that are going to build you up, that you're going to feed from, and you're going to get more in return by investing in those intimate relationships. If we don't get those things right, if the order's not right, there's going to be a whole heap of those consequences that we looked at previously in terms of stress and mental health and other issues around feeling like we're not in control. So the pebbles come next. The pebbles are important things, but they're not priorities. We can afford not to do learning for a week or study. The housework can take a back seat. We don't have to have a spotless house every single time we have people around. We don't have to always give in terms of volunteering, whether it's some sort of community initiative or a church, or even going to work as much as what we need. We can afford to take some time out. They are important, but if they're not done, there's no major consequences, unlike our rocks. And then the sand, in and of themselves, TV, Facebook, reading, all those things, there's nothing bad in and of themselves. It's what amount of time we put into those sand-based tasks and how much priority we put on that as well. So key points from the Is the Jar Full story. To give more and get more out of life, as mums, you really need to prioritize your health and prioritize you above anything and anyone else. And if you're not putting yourself first, you cannot and will not become your best version. And you probably experience a lot of that burnout, that stress, that vicious cycle where if you're not putting yourself first, you can't give your best to your kids, to your partner, to your work, and every other aspect of your life. There's a vicious cycle that happens. All right, so we are going to flip it a little bit now, and we're going to, actually, we'll come back to this in a moment with the homework. I've got a little homework task for you again in terms of defining what your priorities are and making sure you are at the top of the list. We'll touch on that for your homework task at the end. So we're talking about priorities, which is at one end of the time management continuum. And at the other end, we've got what we call time bandits, or you might know them as time wasters, time killers. Time bandits, they're the things that rob you of your time. They're the polar opposites of priorities. And this one might hurt a little bit. Time bandits are 100% within your control. Ouch. Here's some examples of time bandits. I've got an asterisk next to a couple of them, and you can see Bluey in the corner there. Love Bluey, but it frustrates me because as parents, they can never seem to get anything done. They're always playing with their kids. Time bandits could be interruptions from your kids or partner, IT issues. Now you might be thinking, hang on a minute, you just told me that they're 100% within your control. How can, as a mum, you control constant interruptions from your kids? How can you control the internet going down? We'll touch on that in a moment. Time bandits could also be mindless or easy tasks that are your go-tos around the house. It's really easy sometimes just to put the dishes away, or it's really easy to do a bit of extra housework rather than do some meal prepping for yourself, making sure you're eating well, or maybe getting to the gym. It's really easy to make excuses and do those really easy tasks. Getting sidetracked, procrastination, you've got 5 things that you should be doing, but after 10 minutes of indecision, you're actually not doing anything. Poor planning is a time bandit where you haven't really focused on the tasks that you need to get done throughout the week, and so you're not aware of things like deadlines and so forth. Your mindset, so lacking in self-confidence, maybe feeling like you're a failure, feeling like you're out of control, and having one of those mental health days where we're quite low emotionally and we just don't feel motivated enough to get the things done that we need to. Doing things poorly the first time. I know as married to Dana, she likes to have multiple things going on at the one time. And as mums, that's quite common. You have 3 or 4 things on the go, but quite oftentimes you don't get one thing done well or at all. And it's better to actually just focus on one thing at a time. Lack of concentration, leading to mistakes, indecision, forgetting things. Where did I put my keys? You walk into one room and you forget why you walked into that room. And then excessive time on devices. Again, there's nothing wrong with social media, and I get that you need to have that social interaction. In particular, Sabrina and Jess, you might be home all day with little kids and you want some adult interaction, right? It just gets tiring talking kiddie talk and baby talk all the time. But again, it's what level of priority we place on that. And if we're doing that instead of focusing on eating well, exercise, spiritual relationships, things like that, then it becomes a problem. According to Inc.com, the average adult spends over 4 hours a day on social media. The top 5 social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and YouTube. So 4 hours a day, that's about a quarter of your waking time if you fit into that category. So adding that time up can be quite a big time bandit. Now, earlier I said time bandits are things that are 100% within your control, interruptions from kids and partners and IT issues. Now, the reality is I can't control how many times my kids come in and ask me a question. Dad, can you fix this? Dad, Liam hit me. Dad, can you do this? Can you make my breakfast? Can you do that? I can't control that, but with some strategies, I can control how much I allow it to impact on me hitting my priorities and getting the things done that I need to get done. Even IT issues, I can't control it when my phone loses internet or when maybe the internet's down or the computer doesn't work. But if I'm planning well and I've got other priorities, I'm not going to sit there for half an hour getting frustrated and trying to resolve an issue that I can't control. I can get on to other priorities as well. So really want to drive the point that you are in control of your time bandits. In particular, you're in control as to how much you allow them to impact on your priorities and how much time you spend doing certain things that are more of those sand-based tasks, or the things that steal your time. So what are your biggest time bandits? I'm going to open up the chat window again. Does anyone want to give me one or two of your biggest time bandits? I'll throw up the slide from the previous little discussion. Children and technology. Thank you, Jess. Couldn't agree more. Doing an awesome job, Jess. Just saying. Kirsten March, thank you. Poor planning. Sabrina, social media, trying to organise home and finding something nostalgic. Sitting with that for hours, reminiscing. Okay. Socials and phone, thanks, Emma. Starting too many jobs. Thinking I have more time than I do. Awesome. Thanks for your input, team. All right. So let's go through some really helpful strategies on how to manage your time bandits. First one, the do strategy. Can you come up with a better, more efficient way of doing the task without making any mistakes? Can you create a small system? For example, at work, there's a lot of things that I need to do to run my businesses that just require a lot of admin time. Okay, but if I can eliminate some of those steps and automate some things, take away some of my time, knock out some of the steps, but still do it to a high quality standard, then I'm going to do it. So maybe it's automating your emails, filtering them into certain folders, or turning off notifications that are going to distract you, and setting aside specific amounts of time to look at emails and messages and so forth. So find a better way, a more efficient way of doing a task that sucks up a lot of your time, and do it really well without making mistakes. That's the first one, the do strategy. The second one is the delegate. Ask someone else to do it. I've got 3 kids. I've got a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 11-year-old. And I would say to some parents what we get our kids to do in terms of looking after their room, cleaning up their toys, unpacking the dishwasher. We've got a Dyson stick vac, and the 2 oldest kids can use that. And a lot of parents look at me like, are you from another planet? Are you kidding me? And then I know some other parents like Jess and Emma and Kirsten, you might know the Roberts, Katie and Mick Roberts, and the amount of jobs that they have been able to train their kids to do would blow people's minds away. Like, I'm talking cleaning toilets at like an early age and things like that. So if you've got kids, age appropriate jobs is absolutely gold. Delegate, ask somebody else to do it. In particular, those meaningless little jobs that you know, look, I could do it and I could do it pretty quick, but I need to delegate it off. The next one, drop it, say no, learn to say no. It's a big part of being a parent, and I know being a mum for you guys, you ladies there as well, and raising 3 kids with my wife, saying no is the most powerful word. If it's not important, don't do it now, or just don't do it at all, okay? Learn to say no, drop it. And then a couple other ones, reprioritize. Have a look at your rocks, your pebbles and your sand tasks, and have a think about, have you got your priorities in the wrong order? Do you need to realign them to make sure you're putting you first, not housework? Many times we might put meaningless jobs that it's okay if we don't vacuum the house for 3 days. We need to get to the gym, or we need to do some fitness, or we need to plan some meals and things like that. And then the last strategy, got a couple of minutes before the Zoom session will close off, renegotiate. If you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed out about your workloads, have a chat to your partner and discuss some new responsibilities. And this can be a really enlightening task. And obviously you would think about the right way to go about it. And I know many times Dana will come to me absolutely stressed, yelling at me. And really when we talk about it, it just comes down to the fact that she's feeling overwhelmed and she's got too much on her plate and I need to take some of that workload off her. Okay, so it's kind of like the delegate, but it's really around renegotiating and setting out new responsibilities with your partner. So in winding up, a little bit of homework for everyone. You can choose to do this. Number one, write out a list of all your rocks, pebbles and sand tasks in order, making sure that you are at the top. What are the things that's going to move you toward your goals, that's going to benefit you with your long-term health and wellness? And for the next week, make a commitment to getting your rocks done first, then your pebbles, and finally your sand. Number two, commit to one strategy to manage your time bandits for this week, whether it's do, delegate, drop, reprioritize, or renegotiate. And then number three, I'd love to hear back from you to hear how you went. In particular, what strategies worked, how you felt after getting those rocks, those priorities at the top of the order, and also how you felt in managing some of those time bandits. If you can shoot me through a little bit of feedback, that'd be really awesome. But if you ladies have anything you wanted to add, or also if you wanted to share the link, please feel free. More people that we can help, then the absolute better it is. That'd be really awesome.
No worries.
Awesome.
That's really good. Really good job, Dan. Well done.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Dan.
And hopefully this has been helpful. Chat to you soon. Love to hear your feedback.
Perfect. No worries. Thanks, Dan.
See ya.
See you
See
later.
ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.